Hello, everyone. We are live again. Thank you so much for watching. And this is Empowering Women Summit 2020 by IEEE Turkey Women in Engineering. I'm a chair of IEEE Turkey Women in Engineering section, Affinity Group. And, you know, we're just like hosting this event from 8th of December till 17th of December. It's almost 2 weeks. So we're so excited to have another amazing guest here, Giori. And we'll like to welcome Katie. Before, I would like to just remind, this is an interactive session. So there will be a lot of insights and takeaways from this session, and you will have opportunity to address your questions as well. Please leave your messages or comments during the presentation. We will have a Q&A section, and we will actually address these questions to Kete as well. We'll like to also remind, so anytime you can leave your comment. And today we have the topic private smart home demo and devices. So Katie will have also a very interactive session. Very excited to hear you, Katie. So we'd like to welcome you.
Thank you, Samai. I'm excited to be here. I've taken the opportunity during this COVID pandemic to do virtual smart home demos where rather than just presenting a few slides, I can actually walk around my home and show you some of the interactive demonstrations. So don't run away. That's going to be part of the presentation. For example, just clicking a button and having my office lamp turn on or off. So that'll be part of the prezo. Without further ado, my name is Kathy Giori, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. And I'm going to find that. Just do the entire screen and then find the right window. Okay, let's try this presentation mode. Jump right in and tell me if this isn't sharing, but we'll start with the presentation. I'm going to jump into a live demo in the middle, and then we'll wrap up with a couple more slides before the final Q&A. And during this presentation, I'm also highlighting some of my favorite fully free and open source software projects for educational purposes, as well as the privacy of, for engineers who want to do it themselves, and that helps you get started. First, about me. I got my degree in electrical engineering at the University of Minnesota, and then I did a master's at Stanford. My first job was locally here at SRI International, and I got to use Fortran back in the day for data analysis of collecting atmospheric electrification data for launch safety. It was really cool. All sorts of software projects as well as hardware, running Linux on luggables back in the 90s. So I've been around for a while. Then I did some startups, always trying to take advantage of open source software, the freedom, the flexibility. I think free software is really important for innovation. And then I went into the corporate world and sort of fought the battle of proprietary software versus open, and upstream Linux drivers for big companies like Qualcomm was really a battle, but it's worth fighting. I encourage you to do it. And right now I'm spending a lot of time in education. I play around with microcontroller boards, some that you can buy off the shelf and some that you make. And I'll be able to show you a little bit of my smart Christmas tree that I've been working on recently. And I just feel like STEM is the great equalizer for the whole world and the next generation of youth. If we can push the open source tools and the open source hardware, then everyone has access to improving their world and their economies through access to this information. So the lesson learned of all this career is, go for impact over profit, filter your Rolodex to maintain the ties with the best and the brightest people and the ethical people and the good people that you run into, and, just work to make the world a better place. Now, the core of my demonstration talks about my smart home. When I was at Mozilla working on the IoT team, it's now spun out into a project. It was iot.mozilla.org. It's now at webthings.io. But the main focus of that project was around our smart homes, we don't want to live in glass houses where everyone can look and see what's going on inside. But in a cyber world, that's really what it's like if all of your data from your smart home activities is available to other people in other places. It's like living in a glass house. So there's the security angles. You don't want somebody logging into some Linux box like those smart cameras for a while and making outdoor attacks or attacking inward. The data in the wrong hands, even if you trust the vendor of the smart device, what happens if they get hacked and somebody knows when you're home and when you're not? That's sort of a blueprint for when they could break in. Interoperability has been a huge nightmare, and the interoperability of our project is easy because it's done at the web. Rather than have Zigbee and Z-Wave and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all those problems and all the different messaging protocols, you got HomeKit and whatever Tuya does and whatever TP-Link does and all these different things. At the web, if you confine it to JSON, there's a W3C initiative called the Web of Things, and that ties it all together. And then finally, what's most important for people is the overall value. How much time and effort and how long will these devices last? So the openness of the software is really important for how long they last. What I'll present today has a hub, which is essentially a Raspberry Pi. And I have one. Hopefully I can reach to my camera. Not quite, but a Raspberry Pi like this. And this is one where I build my own and I make my own buttons and things like that. Turn that on and turn it off. And that all goes through a Raspberry Pi gateway. I can double click this and these lights go on, turn them back off. So that's my play on my desk, but my smart home Raspberry Pi just sits on a little coffee table in the living room. And all of the data and all of the interaction stays on the Raspberry Pi. None of it's stored in the cloud. Whereas most vendors of commercial systems have your devices and they talk to the cloud and then you access, with all these different individual smart home apps. And the interoperability is terrible when you have different apps for different vendors. So with looking at interoperability itself, our project, the Mozilla spin-out project, works with the W3C Web of Things, where interoperability is just at a web services layer. And there's another technology coming along called CHIP, which is spun out of the Zigbee Alliance, which is connected home over IP, which is another hopeful area of getting industries' devices to be more compatible with each other. So it's a slowly improving problem. So again, what I'll show you today is a Raspberry Pi that's running my Web Things Gateway. I've bought most of my smart devices because they're clean and run batteries and helpful, but I also build my own. And then I run it all myself. I have a tutorial that's still branded Mozilla, but I'll work on including that. Hopefully you'll see a link to this presentation online so that you can go through some of the links on these slides. And then my smart Christmas tree is all made using a program called Microblocks, which is fantastic. I encourage you all to go to microblocks.fun and download it if you have any of these microcontrollers. It is just the greatest tool in the world. In this little box, I have all my fun little microcontrollers that you'll see on my Christmas tree. And then this is just a slide of how easy it is to use microblocks, that you grab these blocks, there's a Web of Things library, and it just finds the name of the thing, the capability, which is what the icon of the gateway, and then behind the scenes it's just JSON. But the students or myself, I don't have to know how to write JSON. I just create these variables and grab these blocks and it's done for me. So this is a super simple example of how that works. Is like on the Web of Things on Microblocks, I select an example, for example, hello LED. I create the name and capability and I have a button press. I have one of those right there. And on the web user interface, it shows the light as being on or off, and I can use the web user interface to actually turn things on or off. So in that case, let me just show you on my smartphone, I can actually click on something and it pulls up, this is actually my smart Christmas tree. So I actually set up a Raspberry Pi with my Christmas tree itself and all microblocks programmed things. And then I can control it from here. I can do automations with it, all sorts of fun stuff. And then in sort of an addition or alternative to a smart home gateway would be to use a program like Snap that runs on a laptop. And here's an example of where you can control with a Snap interface things that are talking to microcontrollers that could be connected over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or even powered over USB. All sorts of great projects. And then behind the scenes of microblocks, the way we build the virtual machines is using a project called Platform.io, and I wanted to highlight this as another fantastic open source software project for the text-based programming of embedded microcontroller devices. Online, I have some YouTube videos. I'm not going to play them here because I'm going to give you a live demo, and it's demo time. So the first part of demo time is going to be just sharing a bit of the screen of my smart home. So I'm going to go to the gateway of my smart home, and you can see, hopefully you see the icons. The first thing I have here is I have one IP camera. Actually, I have an IP camera for a smart doorbell as well, but this shows the front walkway of my house and, cars parked. And if someone were arriving, I could click into this and see, is it a delivery, what's going on there. And then I have a little motion sensor also on the front porch that will trigger if something goes on. Now I have a gal cleaning my house, so this TV area motion right there means she's cleaning over in that area. And I'll try not to run into her during my demo. I'll start with just showing a simple push button. So I have this push button called the desk button. If I press it once, my desk light goes on, and that's right here. I don't know if you can see the light. If I press it twice, it goes off. And if I long press it, it goes full brightness. So, how did I program that? There's something called rules. And this is really the meat of why tying things together at the web is so important. So this is a very simple rule. I press it once, the desk light goes on. This is a Samsung Smartthings, and the desk lamp is an IKEA smart bulb. They both speak Zigbee. There's a Zigbee dongle on the Raspberry Pi, and they don't know about each other, but the Raspberry Pi brings the data to a web layer, and then the web layer, this rule applies. And so I press it once, it goes on. I press it twice, it goes off. I do a long press to get full brightness. Here's a virtual button. I have a virtual button and a real button for the Sonos speaker. And so the music button is on and the speaker starts playing, but I can also press a button and have it start playing. And then I do button presses for volume and so forth. And then, let's see, let me find a more complex rule. There's one of the best things is just automation, where at sunset and sunrise, all my stuff comes on. Let's see, where are those? Okay, illuminate at sunset. So at sunset, I have where I live knows when sunset occurs based on the time. And then all sorts of things, little lights, Christmas tree lights and little garden lighting, front porch lighting comes on automatically. And then it goes off later automatically at 10 p.m. So this sort of on and off automatically is really one of my absolute favorite aspects of the system. The study light goes on, probably accidentally button pressed, but from here I can turn it off, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of fun. And if you like the music player that I said, that you push the button and see it playing, that little icon there. So, and then the doors, when they open and close, you can see not only when the doors open and close, but the battery voltage, how much battery percent. And the Samsung Smartthings, these ones have temperature inside them. Let me just show you that button again. So here you can see the battery voltage and the temperature, 19 degrees of this little button. So those are kind of really cool things you can do. It's a string of cafe lighting. So I think what we'll do is we'll And let me show you a couple more things that I find empowering. Not only the devices in my home, but the information from the outside world. So the information from the outside world, like this temperature in the laundry is just a temperature sensor, tells me temperature and humidity. This next one right next to it, the weather at Stanford, comes from Open Weather API, Open Weather Map dot whatever. And there's a little configuration in the add-on. And this tells me other things, like if it's raining or snowing or what it feels like in humidity and cloud cover. And I could do smart gardening based on whether it's raining or not, or the wind direction or speed, things like that. So that's coming from the internet. Some of the other things I collect from the internet are earthquakes, which there are none detected in the last 5 minutes within 500 kilometers of my house. The other thing is the tide of the level of the Bay Area, since I am a rower and I like to go rowing out there, so I need to keep track of the tides. And let's see. Oh, and then the smart air quality. This is a recent other thing where I keep track of the air quality index. We had all these wildfires this summer, and it was really annoying that we couldn't go outside with unhealthy air quality, or you didn't want to for very long. And so it was a good thing to keep track of. So then there's a add-on called that accesses the information from Purple Air. And this one right here, I trigger rules based on it, that if the air quality went over 100, which is bad, into unhealthy, while our upstairs sliding glass door was open during the night, then it would actually do a verbal announcement alert on my little Google Home Mini, would announce that every 2 minutes until I close the door. So again, and that happened one time at 3 a.m., I think the air quality went from the moderate to the unhealthy, and then the alert came on and I simply had to close the door and then it stopped alerting me. So those things are really useful to pull data from the internet back into your home. And I use Slack and one of my direct message channels to alert me of important things. Like if I turn on my entry door alert when I'm gone or when I'm on vacation and any door opens, then it's going to send me a Slack message. It sends me alerts in other ways, and it does a voice announcement to the inside the house telling the intruder to get out of the house and that authorities are being contacted, which the authority is only me, but still kind of a threatening voice message. And then I can log in and check some things in motion and so forth and make sure it's real. Let me just show you the logs really quickly, because this is where privacy is really exposed to you. You can see here when the entry door from our garage, which is the one we come in and out of mostly, when it's opened and closed, you can see the motion sensor in the TV kitchen area. When was the front door was last opened, But if you look at these, on a weekly basis, they start to show. So there's gaps when people are sleeping, but there would be gaps if you're not home, or if you're in a different place, or if you work out of the home, it would show those things. Then I keep track of a bunch of temperatures. This again is the temperature, from the internet, Weather Stanford, and this is the one from inside my home. And you can see how they sort of track each other. In terms of this one inside my home is right next to a window, so it's a little closer to the outdoor temperature, but the scale is a little different. And then here's the earthquakes and the magnitude and the distance from my house. When there's porch motion, there was a delivery yesterday, so that captured porch motion. Back deck motion, here's that tide in Redwood City, another internet information. And then here's some automatic lighting. The garden lighting out front automatically goes on at sunset and automatically goes off at 10 p.m. every day. So that's pretty cool. Although I have buttons and I can just, turn it on and off at will, but the automation is really fun. And here you can see the air quality index was good, and then something happened and it's gone into the moderate range, but fortunately not unhealthy. Not nearly as bad as this last summer. And then there's motion in a back room and the desk, this little button temperature. You can see how this information is just quite fun. And how is it all interoperable? I just want to show one more thing in the settings of how that works. There's something called add-ons, and these add-ons have been configured. I'm going to show you a local speech-to-text add-on, which uses the deep speech, Mozilla Deep Speech library. And there's some configuration settings you have to do, but these are copy paste things. And then you can make your own wake word. So my wake word is actually, "Hey, Santa Claus." So I can tell it to, you know, turn on the Christmas tree lights. So all of these different things have you know, schedules you can configure for when my lighting comes on in the morning as well, the Christmas lighting. And then where do you find them? You can actually click this plus sign, and then these links to who wrote it, and they're all open source licensed. So there's just tons and tons of different add-ons, and some of them are to web things, and some of them are to physical things, and some of them are to notifications. You know, HomeKit is the Apple protocol, and so instead of using Apple HomePod, you can actually buy HomeKit ready devices and attach them to your own private gateway. So the whole thing is the privacy locally. All right, I think you've probably had enough of looking at my screen there. So let's start walking around. So the first thing, if you recall, looking out the front, let's go actually see where that data is coming from. So if I walk into this laundry room, you'll see, hopefully, you see that camera, and then you see out the front door. And when I mentioned there was a temperature sensor here, that's right here. So a little bitty temperature sensor, that's all it is. And then if we go walk over to the front door, let's see, you can see a little door sensor right there. And if I open this door, lo and behold, the front door is activated, and that will be logged. And outside the front door, there's a little motion sensor, and it had a sticky thing, but now it fell off. And so that thing will detect motion. And then I have a little smart phone, and then I have smart plugs over here, and garden lighting. I have a strip of LEDs, 2 strips of LEDs. One is red and one is green these days for the Christmas holidays. So you can see that different things are alerted. Now let me go over and show you that when this is the smart hub of it all right here, this Raspberry Pi, and it has a little Zigbee dongle, and that talks to all of these Zigbee devices, like this button and this motion sensor. And then this is how I can use my voice to turn things on or off. So I can say, "Hey, Santa Claus, turn tree on." Nah, it didn't get it. I have to try again. "Hey, Santa Claus, turn tree on." Ah, and there it worked. So let's go see. Lo and behold, my Christmas tree has turned on. Now, all it turned on is the smart lighting for the individual, those guys right there. And I also have an IKEA button that I can use to turn those on or off. But the rest of my tree, I actually made this little controller box, and I can turn it on here, and it turns on all the things I've programmed with microblocks. And those things are a ton of fun because I can make them play music. And those are little microbit controllers. They're playing a Jingle Bells in Harmony. And then I can change, I have a whole bunch of other songs, and then I have one that I can change the these guys here and the different patterns that are shown. And every time I click that button, I cycle through a different pattern. And those patterns are actually created by children at about 10 or 12 years old. And I'm cycling through some patterns. We had a program with San Jose's Christmas in the Park. And then I can turn on what I call snow mode, and they all do sort of white-like stuff. So that's a different Raspberry Pi than my smart home one. But the smart home one, like I said, one of my useful things I do with it, if you notice that Google Home there is sitting on mute, but if I have porch motion or entry door motion or something like that, it will automatically tell me about it. And so here's what happens, for example, if the air quality goes bad. It says,
check air quality. It's moving from moderate to unhealthy.
And for example, if the leak detector under my sink goes off every 2 minutes, it will tell me this.
Check under the sink for possible leak.
So you can see how useful that is, because it actually verbalizes what you want to know rather than just beeping and then you don't know anything. And there's also a text-to-speech add-on that gives a more robotic voice, so you don't actually have to have a Google Home. Here's a Samsung Smartthings door. This is what I call the entry door. You can see that opened right here. And again, it has temperature and other information. So I have, when we're gone, I have any of the doors that open will trigger an alert, sends me a Slack message, sends the warning over there. And then you can see, if you scroll down, all these different motion sensors. You can see the TV area one's triggering. I have a smart light over here. This button turns on the Sonos music. You can hear that maybe. And then with the study, again, I have a button for the study lamp, or I can just click the web interface. And let's see. There's a bunch of other sliders and so forth, but you can see how convenient it is. And again, if I go back to the smart Christmas tree, I have a master controller here of turning it all on or off, and it all goes on or off automatically with rules that I have scheduled during the evening. So let's see. So that gives you a sense of my walk around. Let me go back. So now I'm back to my office environment, and I'm going to check back to the presentation. All right, that was demo time. And if you have the link to these slides, I also have a recorded walkthrough of my smart home that I did for a Linux conference. So I want to finish things off with presentation mode, where you can again see some of the projects that I'm taking advantage of. And iot.mozilla.org is now webthings.io. Actually, both sites are still active. And we're still converting some of the content, but that's what I used for the Raspberry Pi. I have a couple of YouTube playlists, one that talks about doing things with microblocks and one about IoT in general. There's a couple of articles I wrote for Make Magazine that are also online and available. One is about the smart home, and one is about programming all these microcontrollers. And ways to get involved, because these are open source and free software. Language translation is one of the easiest ways to get involved. We already have a ambassador in Turkey, a man named Turgut, who's done the Turkish translation. I believe he's the one that's done that. And he's getting even more involved with translating other content and creating new content. So translation is always great, and you can contact me if you want to do more. the Webthings project also has languages, like 25 to 30 languages. It uses the same translation program as Mozilla Firefox. And there's even more languages than this in microblocks so far. And these were the 4 open source projects that I highlighted and the links to them. Like I say, I'm a big fan of educational access to this information so that anyone can develop technology that's good and valuable and make money and so forth. So I hope that that helps, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And hopefully sorry, again, I couldn't take you to all of the places I wanted to go because of cleaning going on in my house at the same time, but I hope that gave you a little taste of it. And again, all these online resources would share more information. So are there any questions out there in the real world?
Well, firstly, I would like to thank you, Katie, for all the sharing all the knowledge with us, and it was really just like inspiring, just like, and how to say, just as like that we also had an opportunity to experience it, so it was like a really virtual experience for us, and it was motivating and educating. So thank you so much for all the insights, first of all. So let's see if there are some questions, but not technical. But
I want to remind everyone too that I'm running this out of my home. Like, I'm not running it on Google servers or Amazon Web Services servers. I have no reliance on those big tech companies. It's really the community software programs that are the most powerful because they're not, they're not beholden to some corporate agenda.
Absolutely, and that's why actually it's really impactful. So it's from the real world application. It's your real life application. So and actually my question is a little bit non-technical, but it's all about your presentation and you, because you're actually the woman leader. You're the one who's leading this technology and who's able to apply in your own life. Not all of us can able to do this. So I would like to just like hear your opinions about that, being in that role and leading the technology itself and also your own life in that direction.
Well, I wouldn't give me all the credit for this. This is by no means did I do all of the programming development. I've led startups and I've worked in big industry. And I think the real value is inspiring others. One of the best definitions of entrepreneurship applies to whether if you're in a big corporation or not a big corporation, is the ability to influence and inspire others without direct control. Like, for example, they don't work for me. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm inspiring them about what we should do. And that's really, I think, where my value is on these projects, is I just have this natural enthusiasm that turns into the entrepreneurial value of inspiring others to join and participate. So I wouldn't call myself, and then the side benefit is that, I love to tinker and I love to program and use technology. And, the side benefit is having my own smart home that I can command and control has been really fun. But there are definitely valuable use cases for industrial. Based on one of the presentations I gave, a big department store in the United States, Target, sort of has managed their own back end IoT, industrial IoT management based on the Web of Things framework, but they programmed it themselves to make it, private to their company and, business operations logic that's valuable to them, but they use the same principles of tying all these, independent devices and data sources together at the web layer. So there are industrial use cases. Healthcare has the issue of interoperability. I mean, where can you point to where there's not an interoperability issue? And then, with GDPR and all of those situations, I think there's a lot of places where people can just fetch what we've got started here and move it into other areas. So Yeah, but I agree with you. I guess I'm lucky with being able to apply this particular project to my own personal use.
And I would like to also ask your opinion about how do you see the future direction in short term and long term for the future smart home applications? Well, in 2020, like we are having an extraordinary year, and also, even the things that are slightly changing. We have another years awaiting us, but also like for every technology has also got affected. So So I would like to ask your opinion, long term and short term. I think your thoughts are so valuable for the future direction on this part.
Yeah, so for the future, what I encourage you all to do is be picky about cyber, not just cybersecurity, but cyber privacy, like data, privacy data. Be picky about that and go out of your way to find things that preserve your privacy, because even if you don't feel the threat yourself, it's like collectively, when we all expose ourselves on, I don't know, Facebook, we had this massive disinformation campaign that really affected our whole country and our voting systems. We had horrible outcomes, in my opinion, in 2016, and thank God in 2020 we're going to be better off. But the future is be very picky about your privacy. Push for open source in any industry you go into, not maybe for the business intellect and the things that really are special to your company, but for the baseline things, for the common things. If we have common open source things that everyone can leverage, then I like to say that a rising tide floats all boats. So we all benefit from improving the baseline open source technologies. And really the value you apply is in the business knowledge aspect and the services. So.
And also, I think, like for upcoming years, entrepreneurship and actually leading the technology and our new initiatives in that direction will be so crucial, even more than before. So I would like to ask your advices for entrepreneurs who are already in this field or considering to be and need some encouragement. Like for those also who are already in this field, it would like to upskill and reskill themselves in that direction to make impact and be beneficial for the humanity and support this field as well. So would you please share your advices on that?
Sure. For me, find your passion. If it's education, for example, and you're interested in physical computing, go after microblocks and become part of that community. With the web things, there's an online forum. So just about every open source or educational project has online either Slack channels or some other, chat.mozilla.org is our IoT channel. Find sort of that interactive space where the community is talking, and get involved at that layer, because then you really know what's going on. You have, sort of an upfront view, and you're able to participate and figure out, find your strengths. And maybe your strength is evangelism, or maybe your strength is development. Maybe your strength is in applying it to another field or community. So I think that, and especially with the virtual world these days, we're less dependent on being face-to-face with each other like you and I are now. And so you can find all these things. The problem is there's just so much noise, right? So again, find your area of interest and then dive deeper and deeper into the community and try to get to the level where you have chat that's going on all the time, forums and chats that are going all the time on the areas most of interest to you. And then if you are an entrepreneur and you want to grow your space and your project, make those things available. Think global. Start small, but think global in terms of community reach.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for giving us this opportunity to listen and share your insights. And And would like to ask your final comments and words and advices before we close the session.
Sure. I have this Adafruit microbit like, but it's Clue, so it has a little TFT screen. And so my final thing is I've got, oh, you probably can't see it. I programmed this yesterday. It says Christmas jukebox, and press A to advance to the next song, and B to advance to the next song, and A to play. So, and this is Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart. And every time I click the button, I have 18 different songs that I can play the ringtones for here. And there's a colored LED NeoPixel on the back that I could program. I haven't done that yet. And this has an infrared receiver transmitter, so I can use these, figure out the codes by reading the codes from these, and then I can also control my smart tree or this box from IR, from other radio to radio communications, or my web page. So that's the final like wow moment. You can do all those things with, you know, just for fun.
Well, on behalf of IEEE Turkey Women Engineering section, Turkey section affinity group, so I would like to say thank you one more time. It was a privilege to have such inspiring change maker woman in this session and learn a lot from you. There are a lot of takeaways. I'm sure, you know, like during this session and after the session, whoever able to watch your presentation and able to know you and follow you better, will have more and more takeaways. And I have no doubt you already inspired most of people in your life. Maybe we had just a little opportunity to share your story and your knowledge with more people. Thank you.
And thank you for the presentation opportunity. I thank you to all of Women in Engineering Turkey, and go forth, all of you, and tinker over the holidays, okay?
Thank you so much. So we were with Katie Giori in this session. So this is the end of the session. And before closing, I would like to thank everyone for watching. And if you missed any of this presentation, any part of this presentation, it will be here, and you will have opportunity to share with your network and let them know about Katie's story and all the technology she referred. So thank you so much, and have a good day and good evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.